All right, so welcome back to another episode in our series where we take a look at some of the commentary and writing by Ajmal on his website.
Oh, yeah.
theborderofamind.com.
theborderofamind.com, yeah.
I think a pretty fascinating website that he's put together with a lot of cool stuff on there.
It really is. Lots of thought-provoking stuff and a lot of beautiful visuals, too.
Yeah, and I think, for this one, we're going to be focusing in on this particular blog post that he wrote titled Being Works in Progress.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And, I think it kind of grapples with some of these issues that we've all probably kind of felt at some point in our lives, which is that, feeling of being lost or, just not really knowing where you're going, or maybe even like feeling uncertain about things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know I've definitely been there. Those times when you just feel like you're kind of adrift and you don't have a clear sense of direction.
Yeah.
It can be pretty unsettling. But what I appreciate about Ajmal's take on this is that he doesn't really present uncertainty as this negative thing that we need to avoid at all costs.
Right.
Instead he kind of flips the script and suggests that maybe embracing uncertainty is actually more natural and even like a healthy way to approach life.
Yeah, and it's funny because I feel like we get so much messaging out there, telling us that we need to have these 5-year plans and, have this super clear vision of where we're going and what we want to achieve.
Oh, yeah, totally. Gotta have your goals and all of that.
Exactly. And it's if you don't have those things figured out, then you're somehow failing or you're behind.
Right.
But then life rarely actually works out that way, does it?
No, not at all.
It's so much more messy and unpredictable.
Exactly. It's you can make all the plans you want, but there's always going to be those unexpected detours and, roadblocks that pop up along the way.
Right. And actually, that's a really cool point because I think Ajmal uses this metaphor of a journey to kind of illustrate that idea.
Yeah, he does.
He talks about how even when it seems like we've made a wrong turn or we've hit a dead end, those experiences can actually lead us to something unexpected and potentially even better than what we had originally planned.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's so powerful about his message. It's not about avoiding those detours or trying to control every aspect of the journey. It's more about being open to the possibility that maybe getting a little bit lost sometimes can actually be a good thing.
It's like that saying, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
Exactly. Yeah. Every experience, whether it's perceived as good or bad, it all kind of shapes who we are.
Right. And it adds to that richness of life.
Totally.
But that's all super interesting. But how do we actually put this into practice? How do we actually embrace uncertainty without just feeling like we're totally out of control?
Well, I think the key here is that embracing uncertainty doesn't mean just giving up and letting life happen to us randomly,
Right.
We still have the ability to make choices and take action, but it's more about recognizing that we don't necessarily need to have all the answers figured out beforehand.
Right.
It's about being comfortable with not knowing everything and trusting that we'll figure things out as we go along.
Okay, so it's not about passivity.
No, definitely not.
It's more about actively engaging with the unknown and being willing to adapt as we learn new things.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that ties into this idea that he talks about a lot, which is that we're all essentially works in progress. We're constantly evolving and growing and changing, just like, a painting that's never really truly finished.
Yeah.
And there's something really freeing about that, I think, because it takes the pressure off of having to be perfect or having to have it all figured out.
It kind of takes the pressure off, to be a finished product.
Right, because we're not,
We're always evolving.
Yeah.
So, and what I find interesting about this whole idea of embracing uncertainty is that it kind of goes against this deep-seated human need for certainty and control.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a natural instinct we all have. Right. We want to know what's going to happen. We want to feel safe and secure.
Right. We want to avoid pain and discomfort.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that desire for certainty can sometimes lead us to cling to things that are familiar or comfortable even when they're no longer serving us.
Right. It can make us resistant to change.
Yeah, and that's where Ajmal's perspective is so refreshing because he reminds us that uncertainty is actually a fundamental part of the human experience.
Right. It's woven into the fabric of life.
Exactly. And throughout history, humans have faced incredible uncertainty and challenges.
Yeah.
But we've always found a way to adapt and move forward. He draws this parallel to the resilience of the human spirit.
Yeah.
We have this amazing capacity to find strength and guidance even in the most difficult of times.
It's like we have this inner compass that can help us navigate even when we feel totally lost.
Right. And I think that's where the idea of cultivating a growth mindset can be so helpful.
Okay.
because it's about shifting our perspective from seeing challenges as threats to viewing them as opportunities for learning and growth.
So it's almost like we're taking that fear of the unknown and we're transforming it into something that can actually propel us forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, fear can be a powerful motivator, but it can also paralyze us if we let it.
Right.
So it's about recognizing that discomfort is often a sign that we're stepping outside of our comfort zone.
And that's usually where the growth happens.
Exactly, and that's where the magic happens.
Yeah. So ultimately, it sounds like what Ajmal is saying is that it's not about getting rid of uncertainty altogether, because that's just not realistic.
Right.
It's more about learning to dance with it, to embrace it as a natural part of life, and to trust that we have the inner resources to navigate whatever challenges come our way.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it.
So for anyone listening who wants to dive deeper into these ideas,
Oh yeah, definitely.
highly recommend checking out Wajmal's website,
theborderofamind.com.
Yeah, it's full of these really insightful reflections and beautiful imagery that can really make you think about the world in a new way.
Totally. I second that.
And as you go about your week, maybe just take a moment to reflect on what areas of your life feel uncertain right now,
That's a good question.
and how you can maybe approach those uncertainties with a little bit more curiosity and openness rather than fear and resistance.
Yeah.
Remember, you're a work in progress, and that's okay.
We all are.
We all are.
That's the beauty of it.
All right, well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive into Ajmal's work.
Oh, it was my pleasure. This is a really great conversation.
Yeah, it was great talking to you about this.
Likewise.
All right, we'll catch you next time.
Sounds good.